Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie. There are cars moving around and someone's using power tools, but I can't control other people, even though I wish I could. But we're going to be learning to spin various weapons, which can include anything from knives, swords, spears, poleaxes, and even things like guns and whatnot as well, potentially. So I know some of you have only seen me for the first time, so here's a sort of demonstration of the sorts of things that we can do. So we'll be doing a bit of that. We'll be able to do a few things along those lines. You can point at someone, haha. And you can also go all the way. Let's see if I can do it with this one. Haha! Almost slipped, but that was the recovery. And stuff like that. But we're not going to be using the sword immediately, because to learn the skills, it's best to start with something easy. So we're going to use this. This is something like a sort of a broom handle or similar kind of stick. You can find a stick off the ground. This sort of thing's quite good because it's rather lightweight. In terms of the sort of weights and sizes that are good, something like this, which fits fairly snugly into the hand, is good. You'll struggle more if you have something that's so bulky that it tries to fly out of your hand, or even so slim that you can hardly grab onto it. Hence why actually things like pens and pencils are really bad for what I do. Something like this is good. Actually, this, for me personally, is a bit lightweight. I actually would prefer something like a quarterstaff, which is a similar sort of shape and size to this, but it's a bit heavier, it's more dense wood. But this is really good for my purposes, so I'll be showing you the real basics, first with a really simple hand spin, and, excuse me, and then we'll be moving on to what I call the finger climb. Now if I'm going to use terms and someone's in the majorettes and they want to correct me, feel free to do so in the comments. I've never learnt with them, so I don't know what the terms are. What I know is how to bloody do it, which is what you're here for. So, hand spin, really easy. One of the important things to start with is you're not grabbing full fist. I mean, you can when you're just resting and relaxing. But when you're doing a spin, you actually use usually 2 joints at a time. So we start with around the thumb, I'd say the middle knuckle of the thumb, and the hand, usually the knuckle, the actual back knuckle, joint, the knuckle joint of the hand. So, I open the hand out. This will demonstrate that you do not need the rest of the hand, and you quite simply can allow it to move around. And all I'm doing in turning my hand is allowing it to drop, but then I add a little bit of a push, because you still have some control, especially with this thumb here. So I can start opened out here, and I can use the strength of the thumb to bring it back into the hand. That's one thing you can do. So just drop it like that, bring it back in with the strength of the thumb. Again, this is why you shouldn't start with anything too heavy to begin with. With conditioning, it can be done with things like swords or maces and all sorts of things that have got more weight and are, more forward weighted than something like this, but you won't be able to at first. So apart from that, so we let it drop for this first half, and we use our thumb to bring it up for the second half. And it's one of those things where you can try to start out slowly, but it actually helps to try and start out fast. So it's good to have an area like this where you don't mind it dropping or flying out of your hands, because it's actually harder to try and do it in stages. The momentum is what helps you the most. So hence, I can just do this, and this, and this, and here, at this point, I've got so much momentum, I'm actually using these fingers, not the thumb, to just push it around this bit. So let it almost swing out. And then there's enough force in that to just push it all the way around. So I'll show you from this side to here. I can just let it drop halfway, use the thumb, bring it back in. And if I'm allowing enough speed, there I am. So, we're doing here, in terms of the finger climb, That's the slightly more difficult part, but it's not that difficult when you get used to it. There's a cobweb in a way. There we are, got it out of the way. So what we do is, of course, we're starting here, and we're basically switching between the joints. There are always two that are in contact. We basically just pass it on. It's like pass the parcel in between your fingers. So when I do something like this, or even out back this way, what I'm doing is I'm basically passing, so I start here, as you can see, the pole is here, in between my thumb and my index finger. I then push it, so then I can meet it to around here, as if I was going to meet it to a flat hand. I can then bring the hand around, so now I've got my middle finger contacting it. And then all I do after that is I let go of the thumb, and we're to here. Now, in terms of where it should end up, you're allowed to have, in terms of it not flying out of your hands, yes, you could have it all the way at the tips of your fingers, but it gets, I mean, if I start doing it tips of fingers here, I have to do it really carefully or it will fly out. Where you really want it is somewhere around here, so it's meeting the middle joint, or, if you can, back here, where it's actually trying to touch the knuckle of the hand. The deeper into the hand that is, the more secure it will be, and the less likely it will fly out of your hands or drop to the floor. And then, for the next part, we're doing the same thing again. So, I am allowing it to meet up to here. Again, you're using the momentum, so I wouldn't normally just hold it in this sort of position. I am allowing my ring finger to go underneath, meet it up, and I let go of my index finger. So I'm to this part. Now, you can have it go to the little finger, but when you're a beginner, and when I was a beginner, it's not recommended because the little finger is extremely weak. You can, with skill and practice, pass it all the way through to the little finger, but for today, we're going to stop at the ring finger. So, now we're going to pass it all the way back to where we started. So here, I pass it over like that. I've got my index finger here, grabs it, it sort of goes around, grabs it, takes it back, and then back to the thumb. I'm doing the same thing again. I'm pushing, doing this push-pull, so I'm pushing down with my index finger, pushing up with my middle finger, which allows it to push like that, gives me momentum, and then I grab it with my thumb. You'll notice when I'm demonstrating it's quite difficult because doing it slowly is really hard to do. It's actually better, even though it will feel quite scary at first, to try and do it not lightning fast, but with some momentum, because the momentum will always help you. So if I go back, I go climb it, climb, over and back. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's much easier to demonstrate. And then, what you can do is, you can actually have this spin I mentioned earlier, and you actually have, let me try again, you can actually have that help you with the momentum. So one of the things that you might have seen me do if you've watched any of my other videos, is I sort of start with one of these sorts of really easy basic swings, which is giving momentum, so I can be going, you know, really fast if I want to. And then I turn it with the momentum into that climb. So I'm going maybe easy as that. I say easy as that, I know it's your first time. But with the momentum, I use that momentum, climb 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll show you again, very close up. So here is the hand, push, get that middle finger, push. Again, it's that push and pull, which must be done basically with all the strength just coming from the fingers. You won't get it elsewhere in the body if you're doing it slowly. This is why the momentum helps. So I go there, between the ring finger, the ring finger and the middle finger. I pass over, so I'm pushing and pulling. Back here, push, pull to the thumb. If you try it as slow as that, it will be very difficult for you, and you may well have it just slip out of the hand. So try having a small amount of momentum. I'd say this sort of speed. So I start here, rock it back and forth, so I can feel, and that's one of the important things, feeling it. When you've got it practiced, you shouldn't even have to look. I can blindfold myself, and I know where it is at any given point. And I just allow it to pass between the fingers, and I know exactly where it is, how to adjust to stop it falling out every time, because I'm using the feel of my hand. So I can go again, so then I could go something like this. So I'm just doing the same hand spin again that I mentioned earlier, this sort of thing, which can go backwards too, forgot to mention. So I can go back here, and I can actually, here's something else I haven't said yet, open a hand out, and I can do, of course, forwards, like that. I can go backwards, like that, exactly the same concept as we've already done. But one of the things that I do is sort of charge up the momentum. If you want to go from a stop to a sudden start, you can actually have it go back and then lock it there. So I have the back of the item tucked here, just on the inside of my elbow, have the hand in the same position as I've mentioned before, and I can just bring it up just to around, basically so that my hand is just above my shoulder, and then what I can do is sort of flick it out. So I'm extending the arm like that, but I'm also turning the hand, and then by combining that together means you have to use less hand strength and you can put more of your body into it. So I can do this. See there, I go from charged up here, like a spring coiled up, and I can spin it out. This is good for building up momentum to do the finger climb we've shown before. So then I can go easy as that. So, now bearing in mind this is something that will need a lot of practice, because it took me weeks to get just to that. Because sometimes what would happen, and this may well happen to you when you're in your beginning stages, is you try doing a spin and you kind of lose the momentum, you can't get it properly, so you end up at this point again, and you end up closing the hand, you've gone halfway. This is the same finger climb that we've done before, but you just go halfway. So instead of going halfway the rest of the way, so I'm back here to a hand, just a normal grip. I do that climb, and I'm only going as far as this. I can just close my hand up again. And even that is good enough progress. This isn't something that you'll get all the way on your first lesson. But practicing for the first 2 hours, you can get to there, halfway, and to get back to the hand, rather than going over like this, let me try again, going back over this way, you can also go the reverse way. So let's say I've gone here, so I'm halfway. Now what I can do is, rather than trying to go over like that, I can actually go back under. So I'm going to go here, put the finger underneath, back to the index finger, underneath, and here I am, normal grip again. So I'll show you once more. This is faster, so I start with this, it's there in between my ring finger and my middle finger, back to a standard hand grip. So I'll show you the same sort of concept with a different object. I just so happen to have, well, deliberately, a knife. So this allows me to start from here, and then go from here to here to here. So I can so it's just basically just going to look like this. When I do this, and you're seeing that in any of my other videos, It's quite lightweight, so it's trying to fall out of my hands. But I'm just basically doing the same thing I have just demonstrated to you. Yeah, it's got a lot of weight in the handle, so it's trying to fly out that way. Which is why I'm actually keeping it closer to the bottom of the handle so it doesn't do that. And then you'll find, just adapting, this is the thing, I'm showing you these things, but all the rest that you've just seen opens up from there. Like, when I noticed it was trying to fall out of my hand, I just simply had it halfway in the finger climb again. I was around here, because it was trying to fly out. All I did there was I just basically chucked it upwards. Up. Let go. Catch it. Preferably don't cut yourself open in the process. So, same sort of thing. Obviously it doesn't always work. So if we take this back to the sword, I can show you the same skills once more. So here I have my arming sword. So we're doing the same concept again. So we've got this with the push. Now doing this particular movement is actually better with a forward weighted item, such as a small hammer or a sword or something else like that. And of course you can go backwards. And one of the tricks that opens up from there is just simply doing that same spin I have already taught you. And when you feel the momentum again, this isn't something, you need to look at it to catch it when I do that and catch it, but the actual momentum part and feeling when you need to let go for a perfect throw, this should all be in your feeling. The reason I'm keeping my eyes open is just to catch it. The entirety of this stage, doing the throw, is entirely by feel. Obviously, can be a bit difficult. So I'll show you again with this. There we are. So for finger climb with a sword, again, only do this after practice with other items first. So I go here, I go here, here, this is halfway, and then I go here. Yeah, again, it's difficult when you do it slowly. So what it should look like is more like this. Nearly dropped it. What happened and went wrong there was I went about halfway, and then this happened. I'd gotten over, not into the handle. By the time I put my finger over, it had gone to the blade of the sword, and I adapted, caught it back in the hand. So again, this is something, I didn't really see what was happening, I felt it. I mean, it is quite obvious when you can feel the difference between leather and steel, as well as the weight suddenly changing, because of course it's very back-weighted with the pommel. Centre of balance is somewhere around here. Usually, when you're trying to spin something, it tries to either stay around the centre of balance, or if the centre of balance is quite far away from you, it just tries to fly out of your hand, which is not recommended. So don't start with something like a hammer, even though I said that earlier. It could very well fly out of your hands and hit somebody, or their window, which would be even worse. So yeah, I'll show you again. So, we have got standard hand position, open it out, so here, and then this shows you a vertical position. So I do this, I climb over, and I'm halfway. In fact, it feels like from the weight that it's got and the balance, actually, I probably need to actually put my finger over the blade rather than the handle, just because of how it's weighted. Again, this is something you feel. So I go, and I've caught it. So yeah, this is going to look very difficult with a sword, because it is difficult with a sword. It's one of the, I wouldn't say the hardest, but it's certainly a more advanced one to go for. So whenever you're practicing this, and any new techniques you haven't tried before, we will use this. So that's it for today. I realise that was a bit long-winded. I don't know how to do lesson plans, but hopefully that should have shown you how these things work. In terms of all the other skills, such as this, I'm going to call it the hand over. This would be like hand under. Those are separate things that can be learnt as well, but I will see how you guys are responding in terms of trying this out, and then see how it goes. See if I can do a next lesson. Yeah. Cheers.